service. Actually, you don't even have to be seated. If you're standing, you can remain standing. If you're sitting, I ask you to now rise. As the ark is opened, as we begin our recitation and our preparation for Kol Nidre, page 204.
Shiva Shalmar, Shiva Shalmata, Aldat Makum, Veldat Kahal, Anu Matirin Leitpal, Im Havariani.
By the authority of the court on high, and by the authority of this court below, with divine consent and with the consent of this congregation, we grant permission to pray with those who have transgressed. Kol Nidre, page 205. Please join me now in the English at the top of page 205 in the second recitation of the Kol Nidre. Together, all vows, renunciations, bans, oaths, formulas of obligation, pledges, and promises that we vow are promised to ourselves and to God from this Yom Kippur to the next. May it approach us for good, we hereby retract. May they all be undone, repealed, canceled, voided, annulled, and regarded as neither valid nor binding. Our vows should not be considered vows, our renunciations should not be considered renunciations, and our promises should not be considered promises. Kol Nidre.
Your
now we continue with the assurance of forgiveness. As Cantor Goldman continues in the middle of page 205. V'nislach lanu.
ונסלח לכל עדות בני ישראל ולגר הגוי בתוכם כי לכל עם בשגגה.
The entire congregation of the people of Israel shall be forgiven, as well as the stranger who dwells among them, for all have erred.
סלח נא לעוון המעשה כי גודל חסדך וחטא אשר נשאת לעם הזה ממצרים ועד הנה ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדברך ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדברך ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדברך.
Moses prayed, as befits your abundant love, please forgive this people's sin, just you have always forgiven this people from the time of the exodus from Egypt until now. And there it further says, Adonai replied, I have forgiven, as you have asked. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, ruler of time and space, for granting us life, for sustaining us, and for bringing us to this moment. Shehechianu.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו
and you may be seated. As is the Beth Yeshurun custom, every year at this time, we have our annual high appeal. But in this post-COVID world, we decided to do our high appeal a little bit differently. I hope you'll enjoy this next video.
Judaism has always been important, vital, essential in my life.
I hope that we've set a good example for you and your children and grandchildren what can be a wonderful life in synagogue life, in your Jewish life, in your everyday life, and like my husband said, and follow that. And if they got that message, then we've been successful.
It was really family number two. Beth Yeshurun was another family. This is what it was.
It was unbelievable because the people here took us in immediately as their family.
I grew up in a small town in East Texas. Both of my parents were immigrants. My mother was from Poland, my father was from Germany. We were the only Jewish family in Crockett, but my mother made sure that my brother and I were tutored in Judaism.
Sharon's brother, David, was 11 years old. They wanted to have him become a bar mitzvah. So my mother-in-law sent David to the family here, and he stayed for 2 years, came to Hebrew school at Beth Yeshurun, studied at Beth Yeshurun, and became a bar mitzvah at Beth Yeshurun. My grandmother lived with us. She lived upstairs in a duplex that we lived in. And she was very active in the Golden Age Friendship Club at the JCC. And her grandson, Richard, is becoming a bar mitzvah, and she invited all of her friends to Beth Yeshurun to come. And on Friday night, that was the big night for her. So I went to Rabbi Malem. I said, Rabbi, would it be okay if my grandmother sat with me on the bima? Well, that was unheard of because parents and grandparents always sat in the front row. And he said, well, you know, that's not a bad idea. That's a good idea. I think that's good. I said, Rabbi, that's really wonderful because my grandmother and I had a very close relationship. And that was in May 1956. And she was so happy. Her friends from the Golden Age Friendship Club were happy. And it was a lovely, lovely occasion. And what sticks in my mind and why this is so important to me is that 4 months later, my grandmother died of breast cancer. And it was thanks to Rabbi Malem that she was able to have enjoyment in her last few months of life.
My family was an Orthodox family, a modern Orthodox family, and I was raised in a traditional home. My grandparents were Orthodox, but my grandfather was more of the old traditional side. He had a beard, he had payas, he used to go to the shtibel, he used to go to the synagogue. It was a totally different life.
We met, and 2 months later we were engaged, and 2 months later we were married.
My father and Uncle Ellie, Sidney Ellis Kemmerman, and Uncle Jacob, this is Jacob Eisenbaum, so Sharon's uncle, did business together because we were in the amusement business. We had pool tables and jukeboxes, and Uncle Jacob had a beer joint. My father would say, oh, how's your niece, Sharon Bieber? Oh, she's fine. What is she doing? And Uncle Jacob would say, how's your nephew? To my father and uncle. Oh, Richard's just doing fine. We need to set them up. And they did. 13 months later, We were married by Rabbi Malov, Cantor Wagner, and we're now in our 57th year.
I guess it was good for business.
How's that for business?
That was good business. It was always a joy to come back and go to services with my parents and hear and listen to Rabbi Siegel.
Rabbi Siegel set the example. He set the standard for what our clergy, Rabbi Rosen, our senior clergy, Rabbi Rosen and Rabbi Strauss, have followed.
I took 17 groups to Israel. Now, why did I take Israel, so many groups? I wanted the people, not only the members, to learn about Israel, to read about it in a book. I wanted them to experience the state of Israel itself. And I wanted to experience it myself. I mean, Israel is not something that you simply read in a book. It's something that you feel, and you have to be there to know what you're seeing over there. And we went there 17 times to Israel itself.
Our children, they were part of Beth Yeshurun. They grew up here. All of them went to the day school. Our grandchildren all graduated from the day school. Our son, we have a son who was injured at the University of Texas during his sophomore year, and they rallied around us.
I truly love what Beth Yeshurun did for me. When I was hurt, they were so great. They flew me home to Houston for rehab. They did countless things. For that and so much more, I will always be indebted.
So this was our home. I can't remember another home other than Houston. To me, this is our home.
Going to synagogue every Friday night, walking to shul with my dad along Beechnut to Braeswood. I remember counting the steps, walking to the synagogue with him, and just telling stories every Friday and Saturday when we would walk to Beth Yeshurun. Then I met my husband, Matt, and when we got married, we couldn't just have a small wedding with just a select few. We ended up inviting the entire congregation.
Dina and Scott met. Actually, they didn't meet here at the synagogue. Their families met here.
I grew up here, went to school here, and was fortunate enough to meet my beautiful wife here. We're so blessed to have Beth Yeshurun as our second home.
Both of our families have such deep roots here.
When I go to synagogue with my parents and my grandparents, it's something very special because I get to spend this quality time with them that I really enjoy.
Every time I go to Beth Yeshurun, I always have a lot of love in my heart.
We had a beautiful structure over here, but the structure was not Beth Yeshurun. The structure, quote unquote, of Beth Yeshurun were the people. And that's the thing that really hit me all the time. And they were extra special over here.
We have a caring, welcoming congregation, whether it is in the chapel where I'm the gabbai in the evening, whether it's in the museum minyan, or the main service. It is that sense of community that we're here to pray together and to thank God for all of the blessings that we have, but also to enjoy each other's company and to also learn.
And it goes on, Lador Vador, from generation to generation. And to me, it never dies. Unfortunately, people pass away, but if you give them the basics, it's for every generation. We learn from our grandparents and our parents, and now hopefully our children will learn from us, and they will learn from them.
It's a family affair. This is what it is. It goes down from one generation to another generation. As Toby just said, the door of door, from generation to generation.
It's just a continuation. So it's just very special.
Well, and Sharon is right, as usual. If Judaism is going to survive in Houston, Beth Yeshurun has to survive. And if Judaism is going to be strong in Houston, Beth Yeshurun has to be strong.
What a video. What an incredible video from two families that have such a rich history with our synagogue. The Cameraman and Siegel families showed just how Congregation Beth Yeshurun intertwines with so many generations, and as they both so eloquently said, L'Ador Vador. And I'm sure that there are many families in our sanctuary tonight, or who are watching on one of our live stream platforms, that have shared the same experience. Grandparents, even great-grandparents, praying together with their family. It truly is a blessing to all be together. And this is why our annual High Holiday Appeal is so important. We always remember the past, we live in the present, and we prepare for the future. I spoke last week about the importance of being involved in our synagogue. The funds that we raise during this appeal help to support the many programs and events during the year that you can attend. And I can tell that by judging from the attendance by so many of you at our Rosh Hashanah services, as well as here tonight, I can definitely see that after several years, you are ready to come back to the building that is your spiritual home. 2 years ago, our incredible Director of Development, Jennifer Sutton, had an idea for a High Holiday Appeal matching fund program that we have named the Tzedakah Society. This has been so successful that it is now a permanent part of our appeal. This year, we have over 50 families that have agreed to match the money raised as part of this appeal. For example, if you donate $180, then please note that due to the generosity of these families, that donation will be doubled to $360. I would like to personally thank the following families that are members of the Tzedakah Society: Debbie and Jim Adler, Susie and Scott Bender, Susan and Michael Bloom, Susan and Michael Bono, Rona and Bruce Caress, Barbara and Dell Coleman, Joyce and Arthur Dauber, David DeVito, Cantor Diane Dorff and Rabbi Steve Morgan, Trudy and Max Esses, Kelly Cohen Fine and Marty Fine, Amy and Daniel Ferber, Margie and Clive Fields, Karen and Buster Friedman, Martha and Donald Friedman, Marilyn and Carrie Hoffman, Lorraine Horowitz, Sue and Stuart Jacobson, Susan and Leonard Kammerman, Sharon and Richard Kammerman, Jerry Karkowski, Joan and Louis Katz, Richard Liebman, Diane and Mitch Levy, Isabel and Eric Mayer, Carol and Daniel Musher, Linda and Jerry Payne, Joy and Scott Plantowski, Paula and Irving Posmentier, Joe Rice, Leslie and Russ Robinson, Regina Rogers, Glenn Rosenbaum, Louise and Stuart Rosenthal, Mrs. Irving Chava Rothman, Marcy Rothman and Tammy Pye, Susan Sandler, Marcia and Lonnie Schooler, Shannon and Danny Sheena, Amira and Brad Staller, Arlene and Joe Staller, Andrea and David Stein, Bruce Stein, Robin and Brad Stein, Tracy and Gary Stein, Gail and Gary Schwartz, Jack Usick, Linda and Tommy Usick, Bonnie Winograd, Judy and Ronnie Yambra, and in addition, we have several donors who wish to remain anonymous. Thank you all for being a part of this special group. I know that many of you have already sent in your appeal pledge, and I appreciate and thank you so much for making your gift in advance. If you have not made your pledge yet, there are several ways to make your donation. If you are with us in person tonight, please hand your appeal card to one of our board members who will be in the aisles. Board members, that would be your cue. If you are watching on our website, then look for the red Donate Now button. If you are viewing on Facebook or YouTube, then please go to our website at www.bethyeshurun.org and look for that red Donate Now button. In addition to the High Holiday Appeal, there are several dedication opportunities as well. With the help of Dr. Daniel Musher, we have been updating all of our existing museum cases with better lighting, backing, and several new pieces. Each case is available to be purchased and dedicated. Also, on Simchat Torah, which is just a few weeks away, we will be unveiling our new Torah covers. We still have 10 Torah covers that can be purchased and dedicated. They will be embroidered with your dedication on the inside of each cover. In your Machzorim, you will also see information regarding our Legacy Society. Please take a moment to look this over, and I hope many of you will participate in this program to ensure the long-term future of Congregation Beth Yeshurun. For more information on any of these opportunities, please contact Jennifer Sutton in the Beth Yeshurun office. Please know that no matter the size, your gift is truly appreciated, and I know you will see how much of a difference your donation will make, not just for today, but for tomorrow as well. Gemar Chatima Tova, may you and your families be inscribed and sealed in the book of life for this year and many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you again, David, for your wonderful words, and thank you again to Rabbi Jack and Toby Siegel, and to Richard and Sharon Cameraman, to all the members of our Tzedakah Society, and to Jennifer Sutton, and to you for all those who were able to give of their time or their contributions to continue to strengthen Congregation Beth Yeshurun. And now let's return to our prayers. We turn to page 207, and we rise for the Baruch Hu. Please be seated now as we continue on page 207. The cantor continues. You have loved your people, the house of Israel, with infinite love. Ahavat Olam, page 208.
Israel, ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושילנתם לבניך ודיברת בם, ושבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
We now continue silently with the second and third paragraphs of the Shema, page 209.
Adonai Elohechem Emet.
We continue now, page 210, Micha Mocha Be'elim Adonai.
ומלכותו ורצון קיבלו אליהם משה ובני ישראל, לכן ושירו בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מכבוך אלים אדוני, מכבוך לדור הקודש, תורת זהירות ושפר. מלכותך ראו בניך וקיים לפני משה, זה לי ענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כיפת אדוני את יעקב, וגלוי מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גואל ישראל. Amen.
We read responsively on page 211. Allow us, Adonai, our God, to sleep peacefully and to awaken again to life, our sovereign. Shield us, remove from us enemies and pestilence, sword, starvation, and sorrow, and remove the evil forces that surround us. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace now and forever. Baruch atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us, over all the people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Hashkivenu.
Malkeinu
הצילנו, אתה, תהיה שומרנו, מצילנו, אתה.
Page 212. The Torah tells us on Yom Kippur, for on this day atonement shall be made for you to purify you from all your transgressions. In the presence of Adonai you shall be pure. Ki vayom hazeh. Page 212.
כי ביום הזה יכפר עליכם, לטהר אתכם מכל חטאותיכם, לפני אדוני תתעוררו.
Please rise.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבו. אמן. בעלמא דברה חירותי, והמליך מלכותי, בחייכון ובימיכון, ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בגאלה. ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה, שמי לקודשו. ברכו לילה לילה, מן כל בחצר שירתה, תושבחתה. Amen.
now the first silent Amidah for this Yom Kippur, page 213 through page 221. And as you continue your prayers, the cantor now leads us in a prayer for peace. Shalom Rav.
Israel
May we and the entire house of Israel be called to mind and inscribed for life, blessing, sustenance, and peace in the book of life. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings peace. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. A woman invited some people over for dinner. At the table, she turned to her 6-year-old daughter and said, "Would you like to say the blessing?" The girl replied, "I wouldn't know what to say." The mother answered, "Just say what you heard your mommy say." The daughter bowed her head and said, "Lord, why on earth did I invite all these people to dinner?" The children were lined up in the cafeteria of a Catholic elementary school for lunch. At the head of the table was a large pile of apples. The nun made a note and posted on the apple tray, "Take only one, God is watching." Moving further along the lunch line, at the other end of the table was a large pile of chocolate chip cookies. A child had written a note, "Take all you want, God is watching the apples." Recently, it has seemed that God has not been hearing our prayers nor watching what has been happening. As you know, of course, 5 years ago, a major natural disaster ravaged Houston. 2.5 years ago, a pandemic began to ravage our world. In addition, we've experienced a dramatic rise in anti-Semitism, numerous mass shootings, political unrest, and a major land war in Europe. I don't have to remind you just how challenging the last few years have been. We've been in a constant state of shell shock. Events keep coming, one after another, continuing to disrupt the ordered rhythm of what we knew before. I am a rabbi. I cannot speak to the political or environmental issues that these past few years have exposed. But I can speak to a question some have been asking me. Where has God been? I mean, we experienced a modern-day plague. Wants to believe, Lama fanecha tastir. Why do you hide your face? Here's the beauty of being Jewish. We have thousands of years of tradition to comb through to find answers, responses from people who also struggled to find God in difficult times, fellow Jews who gave honest answers. And I know we could all use some honesty right now. I want to share a story told in the Talmud. Thousands of years ago, hundreds of the greatest rabbinic sages had set out for an outdoor walk. The greatest of rabbis, the all-star team. And as they're enjoying a beautiful afternoon, they notice at the edge of a garden, down a long slope, a father and a boy circled about the foot of a lone tall tree. Seeing a bird's nest at the top of the tree, the father tells his son, he asks his son, "Can you go get the eggs?" Reminding him while doing it to shoo away the mother bird, to follow the mitzvah of keeping the mother bird from experiencing the grief of losing her eggs. The boy diligently agrees, takes a ladder, and begins to climb the tree. Here's the amazing part. There are only 3 commandments that the Torah guarantees long life if fulfilled. One is honoring one's parents. One of the other 2, it's not keeping Shabbat or keeping kosher or giving to Rabbi Strauss's discretionary fund. Surprisingly, one of the other 2, it's when you send away a mother bird before taking her eggs. This boy is planning on fulfilling 2 commandments at the exact same time that promise the reward of a lengthy life. This young man is guaranteed to have a fruitful life. The rabbis are in awe. This kid is set. A few minutes later, a terrible cry shatters everything. In the process of climbing the ladder and shooing away the mother bird, the boy loses his balance and falls to his death. Instantly, the rabbis rush headlong down the grassy slope. They reach the father already on his knees, gathering his dead son into his arms, an obedient son, following 2 commandments in the Torah that explicitly promise an extra long life. And yet he has fallen to his death. Why would the rabbis even include this story in our Talmud? It's basically calling out what's written in the Torah. You would think they would have said to each other, guys, let's not tell anyone what happened. We'll just keep this one to ourselves. God forbid one day some rabbi uses it in his Kol Nidre sermon. What were the rabbis trying to teach us by keeping this story in? Let's look to their answers. First, the rabbis offer a few answers. One rabbi says, I got it. We've been reading the Torah incorrectly all these years. It's not a guaranteed lengthy life in this world. No, the Torah means that one is guaranteed a long and eternal life in the world to come, in heaven. A clever answer. None of his colleagues will ever know if he's right. But in reality, not a good answer. The Torah is very clear. The reward is a long life in this world. There's a second explanation that is more honest. The Talmud tells us that the boy died because he made the mistake of climbing the tree using a rickety and unstable ladder. That's the end of the debate. That's all the Talmud says. The boy used a rickety and unstable ladder. From that, we can deduce that the boy's death was likely. From that answer, we can learn what the rabbis are telling us. When we don't take all necessary precautions, they're reminding us that we cannot rely on God's saving grace. It did not matter that the son was following 2 commandments that promised a long life. No matter how many commandments we fulfill, God created a world where nature still runs its course. As much as we would like it, God does not always intervene. The rabbis are teaching us their concept of olam keminhago noheg. God allows the world to proceed along its natural course. It's not always fair, but that's how the world works. For example, the rabbis also ask, in a simple terms, suppose a man stole a bag of seeds and planted them in his garden. It would be right if the seeds did not grow. They're stolen seeds. But nature follows its own rules and is indifferent to what is right and what is wrong. The seeds will germinate. The seeds will grow. God created our world and then set it in motion. And no matter how careful we are, no matter how good we are, no matter how hard we try not to make mistakes, sometimes things simply go wrong, even if we are undeserving. We cannot assume a miracle will occur even when we are doing the right thing. Too often, there is randomness in this universe that by choice, God does not always stop nature from taking its sometimes cruel and deadly course. Rabbi Harold Kushner, the author of the classical inspirational work, When Bad Things Happen to Good People, once said to me on a trip here to Houston, he said, Brian, expecting the world to treat you fairly because you are a good person is like expecting a bull not to charge you when you are waving a red cape, but you're a vegetarian. From a purely moral standpoint, the bull should know better. You're a vegetarian. But of course, the bull does not know better. No matter how good we are, our world is not often based on fairness. Life has clearly not been fair over the last several years. A major hurricane flooded our city. Nature ran its course. A pandemic started in China and spread across the world. Nature ran its course. A Russian tyrant wages war against innocent people. Nature is running its course. Now you may be asking, Rabbi, if what you were saying is all true, if this is what the rabbis of our tradition held, what's the point? The point of coming to shul. The point of being here on the holiest night of the Jewish year. Why do all this Jewish stuff? There has to be more. Of course there is. After graduating college, I started Reform Rabbinical School. I got to Israel, and as great as the school was, I soon realized that the Reform Rabbinical School was not for me. To top it off, I had a falling out with my 2 roommates, and then a bad relationship breakup with a fellow classmate. At that time, I was left with very few friends, and I quickly found myself pretty much alone and unsure of my desire to even become a rabbi. It was a difficult time in my young life. And walking the streets of Jerusalem by myself through a difficult and cold winter, I was alone, except for my prayer book, this Siddur. And for the first time, I was learning how to pray. But not just the text of the words. I was being straightforward with God for the first time in my life, asking God the hard questions and getting back honest answers. I was really praying to God with my own thoughts and my own personal fears. I was actually learning how to pray. It turned out I made it through that year happier than I ever been, surrounded by new and close friends, more sure than ever of my career choice. Looking back, it wasn't God who made people like me or reinforced my career choice. It was my prayers to God that changed me for the better. It was God who got me through that difficult time. Sometimes I am asked, Rabbi, where are the miracles? Where are the things I ask God for? Rabbi, what's the point if our tradition often teaches that nature runs its course anyway? I learned the answer back in that cold winter in Jerusalem. God never promised us that life would be fair. It says it nowhere in our tradition. Not in the Torah, the Talmud, nowhere. But it does say, and God does promise, that when we have to confront the unfairness, God would be there to help us. God would be at our side. None of us, no one, has to be alone. The act of tefillah, the act of prayer can give us confidence. It can give us encouragement. Prayer can lighten the heavy loads we all carry. Yes, the sacred act of searching for God can give us hope when we need it the most. As I've now discovered many times in my life, prayer can help us find God. Because despite the great challenges of the last several years, I believe God is still there for all of us. Maybe you too have also been searching for God. During one particularly frightening part of the pandemic, Google searches for prayer surged to the highest level ever recorded. Billions were looking how to pray, many for the first time. Yes, we often don't blame God for our troubles. Rather, we try to find God in times of trouble. In times of crisis, we humans, we Jews, have a tendency to turn to religion for comfort, for explanation. These last few years are no exception. Yet I know finding God is not easy. Having faith in difficult times can be hard. And part of me wishes I could immediately make it so it was easy for all of us. If I could just cure people with my hands, or use my powers to lift someone up out of their seats, or if I could use my powers to make the Texans win a Super Bowl. That's actually beyond a miracle. I'm not even sure God could orchestrate it. How about if they win back-to-back games? That would demonstrate my powers. And this place would be packed every day of the year. But I am clearly not a miracle worker. I am a rabbi. And my job, my honor, my role is to teach about our tradition. Then the hard work is up to you. That's Judaism. As Rabbi Heschel taught us years ago, Judaism does not ask its followers to take a leap of faith. It asks them to take a leap of action. My colleagues and I can provide the tools. Our wonderful new cantor can provide the inspiration. But ultimately, it's up to you to do the hard work. To work on your own individual relationship with our Creator. Is there any better time to do so? I want you to know this year, through more sermons and programs and some great visiting scholars, we as a congregation will explore these topics, the topics of God, the topics of faith, the topics of prayer. And I hope all of you will join us. Because I think deep down, we all believe what the great Yiddish writer Isaac Bashevis Singer once said. He said, there is a plan to the universe. There is a high intelligence, maybe even a purpose, but it's given to us on the installment plan. I would say that a person is not born to know God, but to search for God. The search in itself is a way of serving God. My friends, let us search together. Tonight, on this holy night, thank God it's the most normal life has seemed in a very long time. Our sanctuary, our Barg sanctuary, our spiritual home, crowded with fellow Jews on such an important night. This is the first full Kol Nidre in 3 years. It's one of the most beautiful pictures I've seen in a very long time. And Judaism teaches us that the presence of God, the Shekhinah, is most clearly present when a large group of Jews is gathered together for prayer. I sense God is with us tonight. Yes, out of the madness of the recent past, we are blessed to have found each other again. Now, can we all find God? Because God is still there, wanting to help us all. Now, as we return to our Maksarim, through prayer, we have a chance to connect with a merciful and forgiving God, as described in this beautiful and timeless medieval poem, Ya'aleh, page 223. Please rise. The Machzor tells us that the soul is God's, the body is God's creation, and we ask God to have compassion on his handiwork. The soul is God's, the body is God's, and we ask God to deal with us according to God's nature. Handish Malach, page 225.
Oh
continue down the next page at the bottom, page 226. Adonai, Adonai.
بصلاة لونينو والخطاتينو والخلطانو صلاح لانو أبي وكي خطانو مخلانو مالكينو كيف أشانو كي أتادنايتو بصلاح كي أتادنايتو بصلاح كي أتادنايتو بصلاح برف خسر لخول قرئها.
Forgive us, our Creator, for we have sinned. Pardon us, our Sovereign, for we have transgressed. For you, Adonai, are kind and forgiving. You act generously to all who call on you. I'm now reading at the top of page 232. God, sovereign, who sits on a throne of mercy, acting with unbounded grace, forgiving the sins of your people one by one as each comes before you, generously forgiving sinners and pardoning transgressors, acting charitably with every living thing. Do not repay them for their misdeeds. We turn now to page 233, Shema Kolenu. Hear our voice, Adonai our God. Be kind and have compassion for us. Willingly and lovingly accept our prayer. Please rise as the ark is open. Shema Kolenu.
Shema
And as the ark is closed, you may be seated. I'm now reading on the top of page 234. Our God and God of our ancestors, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement, for we are your people, and you are our God. Ki anu amecha, page 234. And let's now read together on the bottom of page 234 under Vidui, Prayers of Confession. Together, we are insolent, you are gracious and compassionate. We are obstinate, you are patient. We are sinful, you are merciful. Our days are a passing shadow, but you are the one who truly is, for time without end. Our God and God of our ancestors, hear our prayer. Do not ignore our plea. Our God and God of our ancestors, we are neither so insolent nor so obstinate as to claim in your presence that we are righteous without sin. For we, like our ancestors who came before us, have sinned. As we look over some of the serious sins mentioned in our next prayer, it's easy to dismiss the Ashamnu, to say most of the following sins don't really apply to me. And it may be true. Most of us have not committed the big sins and transgressions for which we confess in this prayer on this day. But as my colleague Rabbi Mark Greenspan points out, there are the sins most people dismiss as minor and not important. The small hypocrisies, the minute acts of pettiness, the ill-chosen words and unnecessary anger. There is sarcasm, indifference, laughter at the wrong moment, the dishonest acts so small we don't even notice it. Ashamnu, have we trespassed? No. But have we borrowed from others and failed to give them credit? Bagadnu, have we betrayed? No. But have we ignored friends when they needed us, advancing our interests while ignoring theirs? Gazalnu, have we robbed? No. But have we returned the extra change handed to us by the clerk at the grocery store? Hamasnu, have we committed acts of violence? Not really. But there are times when our words cut and our eyes wound. From A to Z, perhaps we have failed committing the small acts. This is where our character truly begins, where it is developed in the small, everyday acts that are Chamnu for this Yom Kippur night. Please rise, page 235. Zanu. tafanu sheker. And now let us continue with the next confessional, page 237, Al Chet. We continue silently.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך ביצר הרע, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך ביודעים ולא יודעים. ועל כולם אלוהים סליחות, סלח לנו והלנו כפר לנו. על החטא שחטאנו לפניך
Al Chet שחטאנו לפניך
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בעיניים רמות, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בעזות מצח, ועל כולם אלוהים סליחות, סלח לנו וחלנו כפר לנו. על החטא שחטאנו על החטא שחטאנו לפניך בתשומת יד, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בתמחור לבב, ועל כולם אלוהים סליחות, סלח לנו וחלנו כפר לנו. ועל כולם אלוהים סליחות, סלח לנו וחלנו, סלח לנו וחלנו
Please remain standing now as we turn to page 243, Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us for good in the book of life. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of redemption. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of sustenance. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of merit. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of forgiveness.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu Lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol Aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, have mercy on us, answer us, for our deeds are insufficient. Deal with us charitably and lovingly, and redeem us.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu v'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu v'aleinu, ki ein lanu asir. Asei lanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Asei lanu, tzedaka v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Asei lanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Asei lanu, tzedaka v'chesed,
And you may be seated now as we continue with the Kaddish Shalem, page 245.
יתקדש ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי. ויכול ויום יכול, ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בקלה
And now let us rise for the Aleinu, page 246.
עלינו לשבח לדון החול, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו חיים, וגורלנו ככל העולם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומולדים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. שירת השמיים ויוצרה ובשכם. ונאמר
You may be seated. And now the mourner's cottage for mourners and those observing yard site, page 247. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divarach erutei v'yamlik malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayerecho beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kari v'yimeru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal l'shemei dekudisha b'richu. Le'ela le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'yimeru amen. Yehei shalama u'rabba min ha'shamaya v'chayim. Haleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru. Amen.
Good Yontiv again, everyone. Just a few quick announcements. Every time a storm impacts the Gulf Coast, we feel it here in Houston because unfortunately we've lived it ourselves. So I encourage you to help support the Florida communities affected by Hurricane Ian last week. You can go to the Jewish Federation of Greater Houston website to contribute to the Jewish Federations of North America Hurricane Relief Fund. Tomorrow we'll be back at 9:30 a.m. here in the Barak Sanctuary, and everything you normally love about our day. Yom Kippur at Beth Yeshurun is back this year. And I hope you'll consider coming at 9:30 and staying the entire day. I promise it makes the fast much easier. We'll begin tomorrow at 9:30. We'll, of course, do Shacharit and our Torah service, and we'll move into Yizkor. And after Yizkor, we'll have a beautiful Musaf service. And our cantor will lead us in some of the most important prayers of our holy day. For our martyrology service, we'll invite Dr. Eric Haas, who will speak about his father's experience in the Shoah. We'll have two Jews by choice speak about why they chose Judaism. At 4 p.m., we'll have our Mincha service led by our teens, and we'll also have some wonderful teen speakers, and Rabbi Fort will deliver a sermon for all of us to hear. And then Ne'ilah, the last service of the day, will begin at 6 p.m. And at 7 p.m., in between Ne'ilah and the very end, we invite all of our children to meet in our other main sanctuary, in the Freeman Levitt Sanctuary, to line up for Havdalah glow stick procession. They'll come down the hall and enter the sanctuary about 7:20 to come up to the bima for the final blast of the shofar at 7:26 p.m. tomorrow night. It can't come soon enough. It's a beautiful ending to the day, and I hope many of you will join us and be there with us. And we're very happy to bring this tradition back for the first time in 3 years. And also just a reminder for our children, there'll be several services of children of all ages tomorrow, all in the Freeman Levitt Sanctuary or the Zabowski rooms in the back of Freeman Levitt. At 9:30 a.m., there'll be a preschool service. At 10:30 a.m., there'll be a grade school service. At 2:30 in the afternoon, before our Mincha service led by our teens, there'll be two services for our teens. One for middle school students, led by our day school shaliach, Gald Latani. And then at 2:30 as well, there'll be a program for high school students, led by our Kehillah High School Director, Daniela Alexander, and our Lone Star BBYO Regional Director, Sarah Jonas. At 2:30 tomorrow. So there's something for people of all ages, and we look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow at 9:30 here in the Barak Sanctuary. I want to wish everyone again a Gamar Chatima Tova. We all be written for a good year. And let's finish our service now on a prayer for peace. May the one who makes peace in the heavens make peace for us, for all Israel, for all humankind. Let us make it a year of shalom. Oseh shalom b'mromav.
Shalom
Good Yontiv, everyone.
Good Yontif.